All right, let's get back to business. Thank you, Alan. See you're back on, Mustafa. We'll pick up right where Charles left off.
So, Charles, as I was speaking, first of all, if you look at the document, it talks about rapid shutdown and point of connection for multiple systems. It's not very clear. Can you hear me, Charles?
What was that, Mustafa?
Steve, I was talking about the document itself, the header. But it talks about the overview. It talks about the document provides guidelines in applying the 2016 California Electrical Code, where new photovoltaic system is added, right?
Yeah.
The overview doesn't say anything about rapid shutdown. And the other thing is regarding rapid shutdown. Are we trying to? So I was just going to get Charles's and his group's input on this. On the rapid shutdown situation, I already talked about multiple systems. On the rapid shutdown as well, what are we trying to say? That rapid shutdown is not required on existing installation, and at the same time, rapid shutdown is not required for the storage battery. Because if you have a system, if you have solar and your solar is feeding your battery and your battery is feeding your critical load, that's part of your PV system. That definitely needs to, we need to talk about, other than there was a statement here saying under the rapid shutdown saying let me quickly read that.
Charles? Just wanted to let you know Charles is back.
Yeah, Charles, as we discussed on my committee too, I thought we were going to leave the energy storage system aside until we all talk about it. So I guess your group decided that energy storage it should not be part of the rapid shutdown system?
Is there a specific mention of that in here that you see?
Yeah, it says the output conductors of energy storage systems are not part of systems, therefore are not considered control conductors under this section. Under the rapid shutdown. You see that?
Okay, yeah. You have access to this Google Doc. I think it was shared. Just put that comment in the Google Doc.
I'm not going to leave it alone until my group or your group and both of us talk to each other. There are documents out there by Bill Brooks, 2 of them. And that has different building safety.
Yeah. No, we've talked about this in the other group, and I think we did come to an understanding that there are situations where those output conductors could be considered controlled conductors. So I just have to align that sentence with the other group's work.
So.
Yeah, Mustafa, I think you and I talked about this yesterday. You know, in the current code, you couldn't say that the battery system is on part of the rapid shutdown because that's not what the code says currently. Speaking with the code panel members, Jimmy Rogers, code panel making 4 took place yesterday or the day before as the chairman, he says, yeah, it's not in the code, but it should be. And they're addressing that going forward. And so for this document, it might be a true statement. Going forward in the next several months or a year, if there was a TIA that comes out in 2017, that might not be a true statement. Again, it's not in the code now for rapid shutdown in 2014 for battery storage systems, but it should have been, and that's what they're looking for going forward.
Right.
But that made it clear?
Yeah, it should be said too that you know, Matt was part of this document's construction. I'm not sure if he's on the call today, but you know, we did seek input from him on what the expectation from the fire service was, and it seemed pretty clear that you know, an energy storage system is understood to be a backup system, in that when the AC power is shut off, that you know, the whole point of an energy storage system is to re-energize some conductors, and there may be an additional disconnect that they have to find, and that concern is adequately addressed by labeling. You know, this is the same conversation we had in the other group, and Matt also gave his input there. So I'm in this position where I agree with both of you. I agree with Steve that right now, I think the statement is true, because the output conductors are not PV system conductors by definition. They just don't match that definition, and therefore cannot be considered controlled conductors. But I also understand the intent of rapid shutdown and which conductors it's supposed to shut off, and moving forward, that you know, there will be a path that incorporates those conductors as part of the controlled conductors. But I think, you know, the important point here is it really depends on the system design, because there are DC coupled energy storage systems that the output conductors are DC, and they actually are like physically connected to the DC bus of a hybrid or multi-mode inverter, and in that case, they're electrically connected. They're on the same bus as the PV source conductor, so or the inverter input circuit. So it seems clear in that situation that we might want to apply rapid shutdown to those conductors. But in this situation where you might have an AC energy storage system where the output conductors are AC, you know, it's not the same scenario. So there's no one right answer here, other than you know, if we're pointing just to code language, the code language just doesn't connect the dots for us in the way that you're saying, Mustafa. I don't think it's as black and white.
I understand that as black and white, and we have a few discussions on that, but that statement is pretty strong as it's written right now, saying that it's not required. That is not a true statement either.
This is Pete. I'd like to chime in here. Just a couple of observations. And I know Jimmy well. I've been working with him quite a bit the past few months, Jimmy Rogers. And you know, the fact that he says it's not in there but it should be doesn't mean it will be. Just FYI. So the next code is still a work in progress, and we have to see what the consensus is and the majority of the code making panel, and which way to go with these things. But basically, I agree with what Charles just said. There are systems based on their design where some of those energy storage conductors could be controlled conductors, and rapid shutdown could be required there, but not because it's required for energy storage, because it's already required for the controlled conductors as defined by current code. So I agree with the language we have. I don't see there's a requirement for rapid shutdown for energy storage. There is a requirement for PV systems, and the devil's in the details, and that comes down to the design about where those two systems interface and what is required. So much of it is specific, but I agree with the language as we've currently got it on the sheet there.
I mean, I'm open to just striking the language altogether. I mean, if we feel like it's too contentious, and maybe it's just this document is not the place for it. But it seemed like a good opportunity to address it because it is one of the more sort of frequently asked questions about these systems.
Charles, you want to continue to go through the document?
Sure. I think we've hit all of the.
This is Brian. Hi, how are you doing?
Well.
This specific document is for multiple systems only. Is that correct?
That's correct, Brian. We were trying to address a very specific scenario where there's an existing system already on site, and an installer has gone back to install a second system on the same premises, either on the main dwelling unit, or you could picture a home that maybe has solar on the main house, and then another installer has come back and is contracted to install a second system on a detached accessory structure like a carport or a garage or something like that. So in many cases, these scenarios, what sort of complicates the matter is the first system might be installed by one integrator, and the second newer system might be installed by an entirely different installer, and in some cases neither system is actually owned by the homeowner. So the sort of forcing of modifying the first system that might not even the new installer may not even have sort of the right to modify that system. It just becomes problematic. So just trying to address that by just sort of clearly defining what a system is, and that two can exist on the same property.
And this is more for me than for the rest of you guys, but California is saying possibly that if you add on to a system, you have to make the original compliant rapid shutdown. Is that what it's being considered?
In some cases, and even to take that a step further, Brian, in some cases, even when an existing system is there and it's tied into its own breaker, and we're adding a second system, they're looking at that first system and saying, well, we got to clean this up the code, potentially. And so, and I think the HJs just aren't quite sure. Some of them, they don't have an opinion on it yet, and I think that's why Charles is just trying to put this together.
And Pete had just mentioned something about, and I think he's just saying this doesn't cover anything in regards to energy storage systems. Is that correct? Pete? You made a mention toward that?
Well, this is Pete. The rapid shutdown requirements for PV systems do not automatically cover energy storage systems. And one other thing I forgot to mention on that is, as part of the 1741 Rapid Shutdown Task Group, this issue came up during the production of those standards, and the consensus of that committee is that those are two separate subjects. And so the rapid shutdown equipment listing standard was not intended, and definitely does not intend, to cover energy storage equipment at this time. So that's another issue that those two things would have to correlate. If we're going to say that yes, rapid shutdown covers anything and everything to do with energy storage systems, then the coming listing standard would needed to have addressed that, and so far it does not.
Not to belabor the thought, but I'll share what my introduction into rapid shutdown. It was introduced by two groups. It was the firemen, specifically Captain Matt Page from San Jose. And basically, I was of the understanding that there were local fire departments and municipalities. If there was a PV system, it will not service if the house is on fire during the day. That's because they were afraid that there would be positive power in the house, especially the house. They would even do as much as cover the panels with wet blankets so they can get on the house. And there were municipalities that actually let the house burn down because there were PV panels on. So just kind of keeping that in mind, I think that the impetus behind the rapid shutdown was from the fire department specifically. You know, and then I work with a lot of the firemen. They don't even understand the reason for rapid shutdown because I don't think anybody has cut a line that they got hurt on. And the parallel I'll give to this is an electric vehicle. There were a lot of firemen that got hurt at the beginning when electric vehicles came out because they didn't realize there was major voltage running through cars. So when they took the jaws of life and they cut the cars, these guys got hurt, terribly hurt. So my caution is that as we proceed, and I say we because I am very much for PVs and batteries, as we proceed, understand that if there is live power and the first fireman that cuts that thing, that there's live power, it's going to cripple the industry tremendously. You know, because this is how the media picks it up. The industry just didn't take care of this one thing. So just kind of keep this in mind as you go along, but I'm really surprised that California would actually modify possibly an existing system, because like Charles brought up, you know, you're taking jurisdiction of something somebody else installed. But that's just my personal thought, those things. So as you move along on rapid shutdown, kind of please keep this in mind because this is the reason for rapid shutdown is diminishing live power so a house can be serviced in case of an emergency, especially a fire. Sorry guys, but that's just my personal input.
Yeah, so I think I've had this conversation with Charles. As a building official, I look at it this way. I do a room addition. I'm adding on to an existing bedroom. I'm going to extend it 500 feet. I need arc fault circuit interrupters, tamper-resistant receptacles in the addition. The code makes me do that. Does the code make me or allow me to go back into the house and require the whole house to be upgraded to AFCI? And so I look at that as that's the same thing you're doing with these solar systems. You know, I agree if you take 13 panels on an existing system and add 4 more, that whole system has rapid shutdown. I also believe that if I have an existing system that was installed 5 years ago, or less, under a different code and it wasn't required, and I have a new system being brought in, and it's a whole different system coming in on its own inverter and everything, I would think that the code is really only telling me that that system must comply with rapid shutdown. And I think that that's what this document is trying to stress.
This is Pete, and I agree with that, Steve. I think the thing from a practical perspective we must be aware of those. If we're going to put a sign or a placard on a system or on a dwelling or a panel, service panel that says this PV system equipped with rapid shutdown, and that's only true of the new system but not the old system, we're not communicating correctly to those first responders what the hazards are. So I agree with you, but I think we have to apply some good sense to it. And the way it's shaken out for me is I've got some installers on a national basis who, when they add on to an existing system, do go back and provide rapid shutdown for the existing system along with the new system. And I've got others who don't, but they give us a good placard that informs emergency responders which part of the array has rapid shutdown and which does not. So I think that's a good approach. I do agree the code wouldn't require it necessarily for the existing system, but I think we have a duty to make sure that we inform the first responders of that fact.
But again, you've got to go back to Mustafa.
I talked about this before, and I'm kind of, our jurisdiction has been following kind of the idea that you presented, and I'm getting the same thing. There's some people that will present it and have rapid shutdown on the old system. They go back, they put it in. It was the same installer. They're making the full system do it. Sometimes they come back in, and it was a microinverter system in the past, and they have a new microinverter system. Not hard to make comply, but it's really the placard fee that really sold me. Is the placard must identify that the new system is part of the rapid shutdown, and so that's what I've been making sure, is that there's a new placard installed every time there's an additional system added to the premises.
Yeah, and that this is Charles, and that's one of the sort of prime goals of the rapid shutdown group for our sort of master document is to establish some sort of best practice for that labeling, because sadly it isn't addressed in the 2014 code. I think we can look forward to the 2017 for some type of a template where we can borrow from that language to address it. But I'm hoping that in this task group work that we can sort of come together and come up with it's not going to be a code requirement, but a recommended best practice for labeling to sort of fill that gap, because it does seem like we're seeing different jurisdictions sort of come to the same solution by convergent evolution, all solving the problem the same way. So having an example of best practices out there in the world, I think would be helpful.
So we're going to go back to, again, we're looking at different set of systems. If you have a DC coupling, as Charles indicated, guys, that's different than AC couple. I mean, we're comparing microinverters. We're saying we have microinverters and you want to put battery storage, yeah, no problem. But when we're looking at DC couple, that we have a charge controller and my PV is going through my charge controller and feeding my battery, and my battery is feeding my multi-mode inverter, that's a different story. And there is a load center that is live, even though either I did initiate the rooftop system for rapid shutdown or not, that panel we call critical load panel, or panel that if we want it to be on when utility goes down, that's live. Again, we need to look at different scenarios other than saying it's not required, period, because it's not in the standard or it's not in the code.
Do you want to go on to the rest of the document?
So I think we've covered the major topics in the document, and I had already sort of skipped ahead to the summary at the beginning. We kind of started at the end and worked backwards from there. I don't think there's much left to say about the document as a whole. And as far as formatting it, we didn't spend a whole lot of time on formatting, just because I wasn't sure what the guidance there was, and it sounds like we've got some work to do putting together a set of copy guidelines in order to get these things closer to ready for prime time as part of the task group work. I think if we're all on the same page for copy guidelines, we can get these things closer to final format before we present them to the group. But here it should be a pretty quick, clerical editing session to get this thing ready for prime time.
Are you asking to edit this product right now, or do you want to go back in on Google Docs? You're not. I assume that you're not ready to approve the document.
I would like to have the document approved as is. If there's a quick edit that could be done right here on the fly, I'm certainly willing to edit that if there's something specific that's really a pain point for somebody. Our task group is happy with this language as is.
Mustafa, do you see any language that you need to get cleared up before we go forward?
Steve, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Are we going to be looking at approving this, that a statement on the bottom of this the document needs to be removed that mention LA County Public Work?
Oh yeah. Apologies for that. That was a copy and paste off of the website. So that might mean that the website needs to be adjusted too.
That statement is correct, Mustafa. It just says that it was initiated by DPW and then adopted by the REN.
Lindsay, there is no reason for any SEAC document that go out there than any of previous document that make that a statement. That needs to be removed.
I was going to say that this full about SEAC section at the end, I understand why it's there. I'm thinking it's not consistent with the rest of our documents. Something that I probably will want to address in in the branding guidelines or whatever we're calling those. But for now, I would say this section probably could go.
I don't disagree. I think that's fine.
Okay. If there's no objections, let's go ahead and strike out about SEAC at the bottom. Thank you, Mustafa.
All three paragraphs, or just that top one?
No, just the top one that talks about this document was, but regarding LA County Public Work.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to have a statement about SEAC and then go into this document. It should just be about SEAC.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the spirit of consistency,
it's not in any
other document. This is going to be posted on our website where they can clearly click on About as the top bar. I think it's just unnecessary to have it in the document altogether.
All three paragraphs?
Yes.
So I will strike all three paragraphs. That's something you can do, Jack?
Yeah.
It's going to be on the letterhead, right? So it's going to have the SEAC logo on it when it's done.
It will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will need to add the logo before it's completely finalized, but we wouldn't change any of that.
I'll entertain any more changes to the document.
I still feel for the energy storage is to be changed as far as the document itself. The needs to be changed as well. I don't. It talks about the overview charts. The overview only talks about it doesn't talk about both rapid shutdown and multiple systems.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'm okay with striking that sentence if we feel like it's beyond the scope of this document. It was, there were plenty of comments I tried to incorporate from other people, so just trying to keep everybody happy. But if that's a roadblock, I'm personally okay with striking that sentence.
What sentence is that? I just didn't follow.
Yeah, what sentence are we talking about?
I'll highlight it now. It's under the rapid shutdown section. I believe it's this sentence. The output conductors of energy storage systems are not PV system conductors, therefore not considered control conductors under this section.
Is that your objection, Mustafa? Is that what you're looking for?
And that is something that we can address in the broader document and make sure that it aligns with the other task groups' work.
Thank you.
Everybody good with striking that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. Are there any other comments on the document? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve this document for placement on the SEAC website.
After adding the logo.
After having the logo, thank you.
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve from Jim Cahill. A second from Gilbert. Discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of approval of the document, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, everybody. I think that this is good work for this group right here. These two documents are going to go a long way in helping us get PD systems installed and getting building officials and code officials understand really what's going on and what we're trying to explain. This great work. Thank you, Charles, for all your work on this document. Thank you for your task group. Mustafa, thank you for all your input. Very good job.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Item number 7. AC disconnect requirement.
This is Brandon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Brandon.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was so worried. Forgive my physical absence, guys. So this document I've been working on for a few months. I'll get right to the point, keep it short and sweet. The intent is to seek SEAC's backing of this document before submitting a similar document, well, it's going to be a little different format, to IAEI. CalSEA has also already expressed interest for a document like this, providing some clarification for contractors. I'm hopeful that if adopted by all, it will carry some weight within the industry with all organizations essentially giving a thumbs up or putting their name to it. If approved, SEAC is free to utilize this document for our website. What this document does, in a brief summary, is similar to Charles' document. It's a tool that provides a cheat sheet or a guide for contractors and AHJs, and it clarifies AC disconnecting means, the code requirements and intent across the spectrum of SEAC 2016 code language, the California Public Utility Commission utility and fire requirements. So it won't reach all the utilities, their requirements, but the main 3. There's only one mention of intention, and that is due to a gap in the code that does not bridge to each other, which is 691.5 to 691.7, where it talks about AC disconnects, turn to 691.7, and then talks about DC disconnects. So why this document is needed? We're all human, and there's currently a lot of confusion from many contractors and AHJs who don't know how to properly navigate requirements over a variety of sources. They usually have the code book handy, but they don't know what the utility requires, since the utility usually doesn't talk to them very often, or they don't know what fire wants. And a lot of times when I'm given a correction to add an AC disconnect in an odd place, the AHJ will mention it's fire's ruling on it. I speak to fire and they say, oh, we haven't required that for years. So this kind of puts everything in one, the document puts everything together for easy reading. So redliners, I've already had, this is the 4th draft, and with a few tweaks has already been given a thumbs up by Steve Jones. I want to express a big thank you to him because he's been helping me along with this. Pat Healy with San Diego County, although he's not at San Diego County anymore. Mo Zarabi with San Diego County. Jeff Speeds and Bill Brooks and John Wiles. I had the pleasure of speaking with both of them about 2 weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, and they both expressed interest in the need for an updated document such as this one for CEC 2016. Both have graciously done it in the past, but they haven't done it with the new code cycle. It's very cut and dry. It goes through the section, so I give an introduction here. You can see UL 1741, the anti-islanding protection, just a brief synapse. The purpose of disconnecting means, and then if you want to scroll down a little bit, you can see I go through 690, and obviously if anyone has anything else to add or adjust, I'm open to suggestions. It goes down through all through 690, then through 705, then it's very comprehensive. I put all the exceptions in there as well, and then I also added a few of the TIAs. Here's 705, and I've already ran this through a few local jurisdictions, a few cities out here, Murrieta, working with Temecula right now, Riverside County, Dana Point, getting building departments interpretations of it, or what they like, what they don't like. And that's just separate drafts. Every time I add something, I put it into a new draft. So I do a little bit about fire safety, a little bit about rapid shutdown. I put the TIA in there. AC disconnect requirement for utilities, and I actually pull the stamps from each of the main utilities, what they require for disconnecting means. So there's not a lot of confusion still with a lot of AHJs that are in these guys' territory. They don't know what they require. So it kind of allows a building official to, if he's not familiar with what they want, it provides a little cheat sheet he can look at before he makes a ruling on something. And I'm hopeful to do this with every new code change that comes out, put out another guide, so to speak. It's just one of several. I know I want to start working after this one on one for grounding as well. A few people have expressed interest. But I'm open to any suggestions anyone has.
Hey, this is Pete. Yeah, well, I'll need a little bit more time on this one. It's the first time I've seen the document, and I definitely want to be able to go through it and take a close look. I think the intent is a good one, and I think this is a subject that can use some clarification. The only thing I would note is that when I explain this to jurisdictions and AHJ, and I don't know if this document proceeds in this way, but one big way to help inspectors understand the requirements is to know the difference between system disconnects and equipment disconnects, which is exactly how Part 3 of 690 is formatted. And we have some PV system disconnection requirements, and we have some equipment disconnects. And I find that a lot of times the confusion is because they're mixing up those two types of disconnects and the purpose therefore of. So, and I think you've got that on here, but I would just want to take some time to look at this before I could sign off on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can give it to Jack, who can put it up on the Google Drive for everyone to take a look at their leisure. Obviously, I'm on. I'd like to get this rolling at some point, but easily a week or two of people just browsing through it's no problem. And I wanted Pat Healy made a notation originally where he said, this offers an ability to clarify some of the code with intent, and that's what I wanted to stay away from. Unless we do write the article for IAEI in a different format with this, we can put a little bit of intent into it. But my purpose with this is I didn't want to turn anyone off by saying this is how you should do it. I just basically wanted, these are the codes. You can make your own decision on it, but this at least gives you a comprehensive list of this is what sections of the code you should be utilizing to make your policies. Because there's a lot of jurisdictions now, no, because the book's pretty pricey, but I have literally dealt with 3 HJs within the last month who said they don't have a copy of the code book available to them. And these are usually plan checkers or inspectors, and they say, we have a book, but it's kept at the main office, and it's used only by the building official. So this at least gives them something to not lose face when they're speaking to a contractor or installer, but simply pull out from their own notes and see if they're meeting their requirements, or if they are adjusting policy. It makes it in a little, because it's so comprehensive and all together, they can breeze through this with the understanding that they're meeting their code requirements. They just don't have to find all the sections of the code, or if they do and they have questions, they could look up the code reference, which I have all the way through here, and they can read it for themselves.
Good. Yeah, I think it would be really good, Brandon, if we have Jack put this up on the website, send out an email to all members, and give a week for them to respond to this document, make comments on the document, and that way you can move forward with the rest of the document and go forward.
Sounds good.
Anybody have an objection to that course of action?
No, sounds great. Thanks, Brandon. This looks like a great document. I look forward to reading it. This is Chris.
Sounds good. I think I already sent it to Jack because he's pulling it up right now. So, Jack, is there any way you can send this out to everyone? Or everyone that's interested, at least?
Yes.
Perfect. And I will include my phone number as well to Jack, or my email. That way, if you do have any statements or questions, you're more welcome to contact me directly, and we can go through it together. So.
Thank you, Brandon. Great job. Lindsay, did you have a question?
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious. Brandon, are you just looking for feedback from this group, or are you looking for us to eventually post it to our website, or what's the more?
Yes. So I would like. Yeah. So with this document, I'd like feedback for starters, or anything that you think should be added that would benefit the industry as a whole, either from the side of an installer contractor or from a city position on it. Even manufacturers, if you have something in here you think needs a little more clarification, or you've been having issues with that we can address in a code manner, absolutely. I'm always looking for feedback because, I mean, it's a lot of weight of a document to just drop on someone. I'd recommend reading it. But yeah, so I'm looking for feedback, and I'm also looking for any additions or subtractions. And then once that's we kind of come up with a guide that everyone kind of agrees on, it's basically, I'm going to move forward with IAEI, but at that point, it goes to SEAC, where you guys are more welcome to publish it on the website, just as an extra set of tools. I feel like moving forward with SEAC, the more tools or little documents we have available, the more hits we're going to get with our website, more people are going to know about us, and the more weight we're going to carry within the industry. I think this is a great stepping stone to get there, where building departments and contractors alike will feel comfortable enough that we somewhat know what we're talking about to look us up and listen to our guidance on a few things. And I'm also pushing this forward, not through just SEAC, obviously, but IAEI, CalSEA, and then in our NEC conversations and such. Like we were just in Colorado, I'm bringing it up there as well. So I'm trying to get everyone kind of on the same page, at least that work out of California. And I'm hoping this is a step in the right direction.
Great. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Good job again. Thank you, Brent. Item number 8. 2017 priority topics. This is something that we need to discuss. We need to really come up with an idea on really fitting into the CalREN and other energy efficiencies. And so I think Lindsay has a little presentation to give us to get us started. But I would appreciate everybody's input on this matter.
Thanks. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for the intro, Steve. And this guy is going to go. All right. So thanks to everybody, just to kick this off, for being open to this discussion. I know that when CalREN agreed to bring this program under its wing, we more or less imposed upon you the need to expand your priorities. So I'm, again, ever grateful for your openness to do that. And this is where the rubber hits the road. So I think we're running a little bit behind schedule. So I'm going to run through this pretty quick. The idea for the next, hopefully less than an hour, is to, if I can move to for me to provide just a little bit of context around this exercise of, the need and kind of what we want to get out of these priorities. Hoping that as a group, including everyone on the phone, that we can brainstorm a list of potential priority issues and topics. We are then going to do a fun, quote unquote, fun, using air quotes, fun exercise to help prioritize that list, just get us up out of our seats and moving around a little bit. And then, depending on what we land on for those priorities, I'd also like to walk away from today with a list of people who we can bring to this conversation to help, carry us forward in an informed way. So I want to walk away from today with a draft list of priorities and a draft list of either people or associations that would have the people, the experts that we would want to be tapping into for next steps. And then after today, via Google Docs, I'm hoping that we can all weigh in virtually to finalize the list and lock that down with a virtual vote or an email vote, probably between now and our next meeting. Ideally, during the month of May, we are sending the invites out to all of our new friends and inviting them to our June in-person meeting, which is going to be at CFE in San Diego. And also throughout the month of May, putting together a list of agenda items and speakers that we can bring to our subsequent meetings to help really, broaden everyone's knowledge around these new topics and figure out the best path forward for providing solutions and guidance to the industry. How's that sound?
Awesome. Good.
Okay, cool. All right, so jumping into the context part of this, you guys have seen this slide before, last in-person meeting. Just kind of reminder of the history and moving to our SEAC 2.0, quote unquote. Focusing beyond just solar and broadening to providing clarification on code standards, permitting, and inspection practices for sustainable energy technologies and systems, and supporting the transition to a zero-net energy future, zero-net energy community. Oh, I didn't realize this had animation, and that didn't happen. Okay, so this is, again, just a reminder of the funding flow for how we're now keeping SEAC going. But California ratepayers are essentially, we're all paying for this as ratepayers here in California as users of electricity and gas. Well, that is if you are a customer of an IOU rather than another utility. That money from us goes through the CPUC to LA County and into the SoCalREN program. And again, SEAC is the product of the SoCalREN effort. So in terms of why we really need to focus on efficiency, I wanted to just kind of put this up here. Essentially, the PUC regulations dictate that the ratepayer dollars that we're all paying in our bills must support California's long-term energy efficiency strategic plan. This is a document that was first drafted in 2008, updated in 2011, and it's a really comprehensive plan for a 10-year period. And when it was drafted, it was the state's first comprehensive attempt to put together a framework of goals and strategies for saving energy. And so it has really been the roadmap for saving energy here in California. There's been a lot of work done since 2008, obviously, but I mean, this document, this long-term energy efficiency strategic plan, really kicked off the major focus on energy efficiency. And after the little ... this is from the PUC's website. This document holds energy efficiency to its role as the highest priority resource in meeting California's energy needs. So the kilowatt hour not used is the cheapest kilowatt hour, right? If we can reduce our energy consumption through energy efficiency, we eliminate the need to build new power plants, we eliminate the need for peaker plants, we reduce the size of our solar systems on our roofs, et cetera, et cetera. So energy efficiency, as stated in this document, is the first step in the loading order. And that is really what is driving the focus on efficiency when you're talking about the use of ratepayer dollars. Any questions on that? Okay, so I want to also, just continue to reiterate that we're not leaving solar behind. As we're moving towards the zero-net energy future, we're really talking about an all-in approach here. We can't achieve the NE without solar. And we're going to have to really get creative as we work towards meeting our near net energy goals and achieving compliance with some of these stringent codes that are coming down the line in 2020 and 2030 for our residential and commercial sectors, respectively. I want to point out, too, that grid harmonization and resiliency are also driving a lot of the efforts behind the work that we're doing, and I don't think I have to point that out. I think that's probably a given for everyone in this room, but it's important to just keep in mind that, you know, as climate change impacts begin to get more severe and affect us all, the ability to be resilient and stay healthy and safe and continue to have cold beers in our fridge and, you know, cool atmospheres to stay comfortable in and or warm in the winter. I mean, that's critical for health of our society. So resiliency and remaining resilient in the face of extreme weather, temperature, and natural disasters. Energy efficiency, renewable energy, zero net energy goals all play a role in helping us achieve that resilient future as well. And then in terms of grid harmonization, I don't think I have to explain this document or this graph to anybody. Do I? I'm happy to, if anyone's not familiar with the duck curves, but I'm assuming everyone in the solar industry is. Anyone want me to walk through this? Okay, cool. All right, so that was it for my context. We're moving on to the brainstorming. Is everybody ready? Okay, so in terms of, in the spirit of going all in, I'm going to throw a few topics up on the board just to prime the pump in your brain, all right? So new things come to mind. If you have questions and you want to talk about these things, let's do it. And I'm going to be taking some notes. What I'm going to do, what Jack and I are going to do next is we're going to take a marker and over on that piece of paper or on that notepad, we're basically going to write one concept per notepad per sheet. And we're going to post them around the room. And once we have a good list up, each of us are going to take some Post-it notes, and we're going to walk around the room and place Post-its on the sheets that we feel are priorities so we can start to narrow down the list, okay? So I'm going to pass these around, take one or two of each color. Folks on the phone, I'm going to try to keep a running commentary of what's happening in the room so you can get a feel for what's going on in here. If you have any suggestions, if your brain is pumping out ideas, please shout them out. We'll make room for both in-person and virtual discussion here. And again, after this meeting, we're going to put this all out on a Google Doc. We'll take some pictures and post them on Google as well so you guys can get a feel for what things look like in the room. And we'll have a chance for everyone in the group to weigh in after today's meeting. So don't feel like this is locking us into anything. It's just the start of the conversation, okay? All right, so the first item I put on the list here is storage. I feel like this is more or less already on our list. So I wanted to just acknowledge that storage is a focus for us. It's not strictly energy efficiency. It does have significant grid harmonization role. Are there any other issues related to storage that the group wants to focus on that we're not already hitting on? I'm just curious. I wanted to just kind of start with this one.
Potentially the smart energy management aspect of storage, how that intersects with
storage will be at the top, and then a couple of supplements.
Energy efficiency, load shifting, all the rest. I don't know if that's being covered explicitly in any of our groups right now, but I suspect it's less of a focus while we talk about the hardware integration.
Okay, the demand response, energy management.
Correct. Yep.
Anything else on storage? Thanks, Chris. Okay, next on the list, microgrids. So this is a, combination approach. Sorry, on the phone, jump in, feel free.
Yeah, this is Charles. On the topic of storage, I'm not sure we're ready to address this yet, but something on the, looking out the windshield, so to speak, is V2I technology, which is integrating vehicles into the energy storage mix, where vehicles may be connected to the home energy or premises wiring in a way that provides storage and potential source of power with electric vehicles. So just putting that out there on a Post-it.
Hey, Lindsay, this is Don. I don't know if Tacker's on the line, but me and Tacker a couple of years ago met with Arthur O'Donnell at the CPUC, and they had like 3 top priorities regarding energy storage, and that was basically safety and disposal, and the other things that we're talking about, management systems. But they were really a little bit concerned about some firefighter safety guidance and particularly some disposal guidance on that.
Okay. Thank you, Don. And who spoke before Don?
That was Charles.
All right, so we had V2G, vehicle to grid from Charles, safety, disposal, energy management from Don, energy management DR from Chris. Jack's taking notes on a notepad. It's really big. Okay, thank you. Moving on to microgrids. Again, this is a combined approach to, I'd say, primarily resiliency. Is anyone in the room tracking microgrid activity to the extent that you would want to talk about it here just at a really high level? Because I am definitely not an expert on this topic. Okay, Chris Brott, are you on the line? So I invited one of those experts, maybe expert is a strong word, I don't want to put word labels on you, Chris, but Chris Brott is with BayREN. So SoCal REN here in the Southern California area has a counterpart up in the Bay. It's the Bay Area Regional Energy Network. They run a full-blown codes and standards program that BayREN is looking to, that SoCal REN is looking to emulate next year when we eventually get hopefully when we get approval and funding for that. And BayREN right now is working with the city of Berkeley and a couple of other stakeholders to plan for a microgrid within the city of Berkeley. And they've been putting together quite a bit of research to just inform the stakeholder group on some of the barriers ahead and sort of outline their plans for addressing those barriers. And I think there's a lot of good lessons to be learned from this Berkeley microgrid project. It's called the Berkeley BEAT. I don't know what BEAT stands for. Somebody know? It doesn't look like Chris is active on the webinar right now, so I'm going to let him off the hook. Chris, unless you're there and you want to speak to Berkeley BEAT at all. Okay. Well, I apologize that I can't speak to this more educatedly right now, but I anticipate that if we can bring in some educated folks to speak with us in the future, that there are probably some good opportunities related to microgrids. Again, microgrids basically allow for islanding, where when the grid fails due to, for whatever reason, a contiguous group of buildings on the same station can essentially continue to operate and can continue to provide services for the community. If we're talking about, a natural disaster and everyone's out of power, this could be a safe meeting place and, somewhere, a place of refuge for folks looking to escape that disaster or otherwise. So remaining super efficient in these buildings that are connected to this microgrid is critical, because we want to be able to take all the energy that's being produced via renewables within that grid and stored in storage within that grid and put it towards the services that are most critical. And so I think there is a huge energy efficiency component within this microgrid concept. And I'd say that's where I would like to see us go, but I would really just use this as an opportunity for us to learn more about microgrids in general and then see what happens.
we might have somebody, I'm sure we do have somebody in our company that could talk to it. I don't think we're officially in that business, but like brushing up against it a lot. So
Okay. Excellent.
I can check on that.
Thanks, Jim.
SPG&E has got a microgrid project, City of Borrego,
Yeah.
Borrego Springs.
Yep, that's right. And the Bay Rent project is learning a lot from Borrego. I know that they're a big part of the planning. So it's good.
I want to say there's a microgrid pilot happening in Oakland or Berkeley too.
That's the Berkeley meeting.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm guessing that's probably the one. And we can definitely bring in some folks to talk more about that.
I've got somebody at SPG that will come and talk about microgrids as well.
Okay,
Check with them first.
great.
Hey, Linda, just to add to the microgrid, I think for this group, the concern or what should be, or what could be a concern is when the grid goes down, like you're saying, and then the microgrid kicks on, power is still being shared across lines. It's crossing property lines, crossing utility right of way, and it's getting outside of what I think the just the codes and standards are used to, which is essentially per company, right? And so how can we really create insight knowledge that can percolate beyond here to allow microgrids that exist in a lot of different areas. So and again, when you're islanding, when old grids shut down, there's always safety concerns. I think that would be, you guys tackle this. I think a lot. There's also a ton of regulatory barriers.
Thanks, Ben. Anything on the phone regarding microgrids before I move on to my next bullet? Okay. All right, so lighting is an area of much discussion and deliberation at the Energy Commission and among designers, architects, energy consultants, and building officials. Steve, do you want to speak to lighting at all, or should I elaborate to the extent that I can, which is not very much?
Well, you can start and I'll add to it.
Okay, so the California Energy Commission issues and develops and releases Title 24, Part 6, our Energy Efficiency Code, as you guys all know, every 3 years. So in 2016, we saw an increase in the requirements for lighting efficiency and lighting controls. We also saw the introduction, I think the last code cycle might have been the one before, for lighting acceptance technicians. And so, professionals that go out and verify lighting installations, I guess in partnership with the building officials, for lack of a better way to describe that. The 2019 code is being developed right now, and they are looking to continue to push the envelope on lighting and lighting controls. And I believe it is, from a training perspective, I know that providing training on lighting and lighting controls is a big priority right now, because coming up to speed with these new standards is a lift, and wrapping your head around all of it is challenging. So I am guessing that there is some opportunity to provide clarification and simplification for folks who are applying for and approving these types of systems in buildings.
I think that lighting controls is something that we see more and more on plan reviews. You've got in the energy code now, you have the segregated electrical, so you can determine the lighting loads within inside a building. There are so many documents from the state now that have to be filled out for lighting in a building. So I think if we address lighting can get us a long way. A lot of stuff to address.
We can spend the whole rest of the next year and next 3 years on lighting, by the way.
Yeah.
That would be right up that energy efficiency alley, I will say. So
There are a lot of DOE requirements already out there too, right? Like
standards for performance, lighting performance.
All kind of lighting performance testing for energy efficiency. Very specific.
Great, thank you guys. All right, so we'll definitely add that to the list here and get some further information if we deem it a priority here and kind of suss out the opportunities. These next three I wanted to throw in just because there is a market transformation effort happening in parts of the country right now to bring heat pump technologies to our buildings. Heat pumps, particularly ductless heat pumps, the first one that I just really revealed. You know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with these technologies. They're used in Europe and in Asia pretty much everywhere. It is the primary technology for heating and cooling. And for some reason, this technology has not made its way to the U.S. in a big way. Over the last 5 or 6 years, in the Pacific Northwest, there's been an energy efficiency advocacy group doing some significant market transformation work to bring ductless heat pumps to that market, and they have seen a ton of success. And when I say market transformation, I mean upstream, downstream. They're working with manufacturers and distributors and retailers to get them on the shelves, to get them available to distributors. They're working with homeowners to raise awareness. They're providing incentives to offset the cost. I mean, it's a whole market approach to bringing this technology. Yeah.
What is a ductless heat pump?
I'm searching for it right now.
Is that where it sits on the wall?
Yep, exactly. It's a heat pump unit that sits outside, and then you have the air handler typically installed near the ceiling on a wall, but now there are a ton of different applications for that interior where it's like a ceiling panel in your ceiling. I mean, yes, mini split is one of the typical terms for it. It runs on electricity, so we're talking about fuel switching away from natural gas to heat homes in many cases, which has grid implications. You know, where we see some greenhouse gas reduction benefits from fuel switching, but we also see some grid increase in grid demand at different times of the day and different times of the year. If we're using heat pumps to warm our homes in the winter especially, we're shifting that load away from gas and onto the electricity grid, so there's an implication there that we need to, you know, keep in mind. Anyhow, these technologies can be very efficient, and as an electrically fueled technology, they have some real potential in the U.S. Heat pump water heaters, it's the same concept. You're pulling, you know, heat or the opposite of heat out of the air and dumping it into the water that you're then using for your domestic hot water purposes. And then they also, newer and I think not tested and not proven as a technology yet, so probably not something we would focus on, but maybe something to keep, you know, on our horizon is the combo space water heater, space and water heat pumps, where it's one heat pump unit that can dump the heated or cooled air into both the space, ambient air, and your water heater. So it's combining those two technologies for multiple uses in your home. I do not actually know. I have very little idea of what, if any, code implications exist around these, but I would love to dive a little bit deeper into it with our friends in the Pacific Northwest and find out more and see if there's anything holding back this technology here in California from a code and standards perspective that might be of interest to this group to tackle. I did speak with a Mitsubishi heat pump manufacturer, or I spoke with Mitsubishi, who manufactures ductless heat pumps. I actually own one of those. I have one in my home. Fantastic. Best thing I ever did. And apparently there has been a little bit of drama in getting one of his, I guess Mitsubishi specifically, heat pumps approved for use here in California. So I'm going to dig into that a little bit more and see if any opportunities exist for this group to kind of provide some solutions. Did I intrigue you at all around that?
A little bit, yeah. I'm looking at those from my home.
Is the meeting rep in California?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a really good friend in Coca-Cola.
Okay.
Really good friend.
Okay.
And then what makes these very, on the flip side of the air conditioning is the variable speed drive.
Yeah.
That's what makes this, because you know, everybody knows air conditioning, when you turn it on, you take a lot of juice, and it just sucks a lot of power. And Hawaii, everybody uses this because basically now it is the most efficient. It can cut your air conditioning cost more than 50%. So you can imagine that, because it just goes really slow, and it's even more efficient. If you're one sensor, you can get up to, I think, 46 units off of one sensor off of that.
Yeah.
So it is
Right.
really huge. Because I talked about air conditioning. In Hawaii, there is a group that is doing this now, is heating the refrigerant to give I think, a greater disparity and reducing energy costs to cool it down as much as 15 to 20%, I understand. So just do this type of system, and you have tubes, and you heat up the refrigerator. And if you're looking at energy on air conditioning, NRG just announced their largest ice energy air conditioning system in a joint venture, and we're talking really cheap. Just came out. So the theory is it freezes something and keeps it cold, so you don't have to spend as much energy to cool. The business are picking this up like crazy now. I'm really surprised it's not big in California, because it's got some really huge stuff. I think it's called ice energy. Two presenters came to Hawaii and gave that information just recently. So if you're looking at ways to save money, that's how you'll do it. I just got an email. Anybody heard of Union of Construction Scientists? California just got picked as #1 in the report. Okay? So they have a criteria of what makes you rated as #1. I think if you guys looked at that criteria, that might help you get to a stronger level, because these are the technical brainiacs that look at what makes you, not so much as code stuff, right? They're talking about what makes you more clean energy efficient. I can send you, Jack, the link right here. So yeah, I just pulled it up because Hawaii got rated #5, and I wanted to know who was #1, and it's California.
That's good to hear.
I think #1 is bad.
Yeah, are we the worst or the best?
The best.
Yeah.
It says California is #1.
I wasn't sure.
The #1 word.
No, the #1. Most efficient, it says. A stellar all-around performer. Okay?
There's still work to be done.
Always.
We can always attempt. Okay, any thoughts on heat pumps before I move on? Anyone on the line want to chime in here? Okay. Benchmarking and disclosure. So this is, I don't know if this rings any bells for anyone in this room, but I'm going to give a really brief rundown of what this means and the implications for the people we care about. Basically, the state of California has recently passed a law, AB 802, that is going to begin to require, starting in January, I think, of next year, all commercial buildings, existing buildings larger than 50,000 square feet, to benchmark their energy consumption, basically meaning track your energy consumption and put it into this national database that's actually run by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, and disclose it publicly. And many local jurisdictions are adopting very similar ordinances that are, in many cases, pushing the envelope on the state requirements. They are requiring benchmarking and disclosure of water consumption, and or reducing the size threshold so that buildings maybe 20,000 square feet above have to disclose, not just 50,000 square feet above. In the next couple of years, the state of California's law is also going to pick up multifamily buildings in addition to large commercial. So the implication here that I want to raise everyone's awareness on is that what we have seen so far is that building departments and AHJs are going to be the enforcers of these new requirements. Basically, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to roll out, but building departments will be required to ensure that all existing buildings in their jurisdiction are disclosing their energy consumption, and basically the law states it must be done on an annual basis. The District of Columbia has been doing this for a couple of years. Their building department is the enforcement agency. I think we have a lot to learn from them. The city of Los Angeles just passed their own ordinance here, and they are including water, and they have reduced the size threshold down to 20,000 square feet, and their building department is in fact the enforcement agency. So I don't think this has significant codes and standards implications for us to really kind of, coalesce around, but I would be interested in hearing from some of the AHJs that are rolling out these programs to see if there is an opportunity for a group like us to provide clarity to our counterparts, to our industry friends, and just kind of explore those opportunities. So I just wanted to raise it for everyone. Yeah.
Did you say 8082?
8802.
82?
Yep.
And that's already been passed?
Yeah. Yep, it has. If you Google 8802 Energy Commission, California Energy Commission has a website dedicated to it, or a web page on their site. No problem. I guess just for a little more important information, the law was passed, I think, last year, but they've been in the process of designing the regulations around the law. They have draft regs out now for comment, and they're looking to finalize them later this year.
There's some overlap with some of the monitoring that we're doing of solar production and consumption as well. So there could be some work done in that area in this group.
Write that down.
That kind of stuff, or even straight consumption, more utilities to work out some communication protocols and whatnot.
The utility data sharing component of this is, I think, by far the most tenuous. Getting the utilities and mapping meters from every building in your jurisdiction so that they can actually get access to the right level of granularity of data is a big challenge. So the draft regulations are establishing the rules that utilities are going to have to play by.
Okay.
Anything? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, what's the name of that legislation?
It's the California Energy Data and Disclosure Law.
AB 802.
AB 802.
AB 802.
Yes. Anything on the phone? Anyone want to chime in on this discussion before I move on? Okay. I think I only have two more. So speaking again about the Energy Commission update to Title 24, right now the 2019 standards are being written similar to lighting. They're looking at increasing the performance of walls and attics even more than they did in the last code. So there are some pretty significant impacts to builders in terms of cost for meeting the requirements around high performance walls and attics with regards to insulation, both fat and rigid insulation, continuous, and a big part of, so that's walls, and then a big part of the high performance attic is if you have a ducted system, heating and cooling system, getting those ducts into conditioned space and out of hot, dusty, nasty attics. So reducing heat loss through ducts and also improving air quality for that air that gets distributed through those ducts by bringing them into conditioned space. So again, I think probably not a huge area of interest for the folks in this room, and if this ends up being a priority area for us, I would want to definitely tap into some other experts to help inform the conversation. And my last one was just a question for you guys. What else? What else comes to mind?
Combined heat and power. CHP.
Excellent. What about it, Don? Can you give us a little?
Yeah, it's good. You know, we could almost take a broad stroke and say emerging technologies. ClearEdge had the CE5 fuel cell that was solid oxide fuel cell that was a CHP product. There's a lot of cogeneration things that are kind of coming down the pipe, and CHP seems to be kind of come down the upswing, and all kinds of different stuff. I mean, you could put under energy storage, you could put vehicle to grid technologies because those are coming. So I think maybe we should look at the emerging technologies as kind of a whole and then figure out from there what we should be supporting. But I know CHP is something that's getting a lot of traction.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that, Don.
Would solar thermal fall under CHP? Or is it a
No,
separate
but
topic?
it's a valid addition to the list, for sure.
Yeah, the heat recovery and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's funny, when I was working on this list, I was a little bit challenged because SEAC historically has been focused on solar, and solar is a singular technology. I mean, I take that back. It's a system of technologies, right? But the implications around the codes and standards are dedicated to this system. And the solutions that this group is generating speak specifically to those codes and standards for this specific system. And so when we start to think about energy efficiency, how many systems fall into that category? Thousands, right? So this exercise that we're doing right now, I think, is really valuable to help us start to think about which of those technologies make the most sense for us to focus on. And Don, I agree that emerging technologies probably offer a lot of opportunity, but we would really want to dive in, do a little bit of investigating to see which of those emerging technologies are I guess, worth our time. Because that in and of itself is a big bucket of potential work for us. So CHP, solar thermal, anything else? Okay.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that jumped out of it when we were talking about it was the set zero net energy. The legislation that was passed, so all new ones built for that. I think we have to consider that solar is part of that.
Absolutely.
And the batteries, will be a part of that. This was mentioned. And smart thermostats, we install Nest and a lot of that we install as part of the installation. And we're also running the other thing that we're seeing, especially in Hawaii, and Brian will understand this, but it's all self-gen right now. So basically, we can't export to the building right now. And so we're not in a net metering situation anymore. There might be a little bit more net metering in Hawaii, but basically it's all shut down. So whatever we install in the house can't leave the property. And so that's forcing us to think about putting in smart water meters, putting in batteries, obviously, to store the energy for nighttime usage. But I think that situation alone, that self-gen situation, is going to drive the energy efficiency business. I know it's going to come here too. They will have times where the grid is saturated. I don't know that's so.
Jim, you think that'll come here? Grids will be overloaded?
Whether or not they're really overloaded or not, we will hit a wall where we we don't want to know grid in certain areas, and just like it's out in Hawaii, and then we'll have to focus on self-gen systems, which this group will probably want to look at, from the solar perspective, but also it's going to drive the energy efficiency stuff. Because now, like we said, now the customer, like the microgrid, except it's
they are
just
their own
house.
microgrid, yeah.
It's just on your house. So I think that's going to be key to driving this. And I think we can also say that there's a lot of synergies where the industry is going with solar and where energy efficiency is
One other thing that just came to mind for me related to the zero net energy requirements for new homes in 2020. So the city of Santa Monica just passed a zero net energy reach code. So all new homes in Santa Monica now have to meet the zero net energy rate. And they're using the energy design rating number that comes out of the energy modeling software. And I think they're rolling out their code May 1, their new requirements on May 1. So I think very soon we're going to start to learn how that goes over with both applicants and staff and consultants who are running those energy models. So I'm going to track that. We actually have an energy code coach who's going to be working with the city of Santa Monica to help bring all both sides of their permit desk up to provide resources wherever they can, and hoping to learn as much as I can from that experience and bring that to this group of guys.
This zero thing. So in other words, is it like an overall thing? This home cannot be not just electricity, everything else. It has to be.
Well, there are varying definitions. I think there's like 11 or 16 definitions last time I counted. In the state of California, it basically means that a home or a building must generate as much energy as it consumes over the course of 1 year. I'm just going to leave it at that.
So
way more complicated than that.
It doesn't necessarily mean electricity. It can be garbage.
No, it is electricity. The way that the current state of California defines CNE is based on time-dependent valuation of electric rates, and also takes into account natural gas consumption. So it takes your gas and your electricity and turns it into BTUs, and says, depending on when you're using the electricity, if it costs a lot more during peak periods, then you have to generate more solar to offset that high-priced peak electricity than you do for the electricity you're using during low pricing periods, like in the middle of the night. Analyze that across the entire year, your energy consumption patterns, and then you have to generate as much electricity in terms of the value, the cost of that electricity as you consumed from a cost perspective. I did not explain that very well then.
No, I got you there. See, what I see of your mandate, it is the consumer that has to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the ones who are going to select the technology. And so a lot of the stuff you brought up is the technology.
Right.
And I use this simple of net zero. If you go to Costco, you go to SEAC, you pick up the wagon next to you, and you take it into the store and you bring it out. That's a net zero store, right? Right? Because other than that, the guys who bring the wagons up, you're shaking your head, right? How often do you go to a store and you look at all the wagons in the parking lot, right? That is a simple analogy of net zero. So you have to educate the public way in advance. You're going to get to net zero. And I challenge SEAC to be that group to educate the public. If you're going to get there, that is your mandate, to educate them what's available to make this happen. Because I'm going to say 90% of the public is totally ignorant. I have a battery system in my house. My wife tells her friends, well, our house runs off of battery. What? You're crazy. How can you do that? That's crazy. Who can, what are these batteries, right? Yeah, you guys are all laughing, but that's the challenge. You guys are doing a good job here, but the challenge is to educate the public in what you know. How do you get that done? Right? Because Solar City or Tesla, you do that every day, right? That's what all your people do every day, right? Go out there and try to find solutions for them, right? Anyway, well, that's it.
Thank you, Brad. Okay, well, I think we're good on generating our list for today. Let's prioritize. Okay, so you got your Post-its? We're going to say pink is number 1, yellow is number 2, and blue is number 3. So we're going to spread these papers around. Your very number 1 top priority, put your pink Post-it on it, like red, yellow, green. Okay, so I don't know. Yeah.
Do you want us to do just one of each color, or you initially said 1 or 2?
I think you can do 2. If you have like 2 really top priorities or 2 that you don't care that much about, feel free to do. Cool. Try to avoid tripping on our hazards over here. Pink's number 1, yellow's number 2.
I know, great analogy, by the way. I was like, oh, man, that's exactly it. Everybody understands that one.
Does anyone have the extra Post-it?
It's right here. Okay. He's going to take 10, he said. You're saying, yeah. Well, there's a difference. Yeah. Yeah. Right? You go to those seminars, you write up, and you pull it all over the wall. I don't know if you do.
Pink is 1, yellow is 2, blue is 3.
Got it. Hey, how's it going? Yeah. That's a search for associated is coming. Yeah. Very much.
I was even going to ask you, but you know, on that. So, yeah, I mean, on the heat pump system that you got in your house, what's like an average cost for installation? And every takes care of the whole.
Two smaller air handlers, one in our bedroom, one
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like the master with a bunch of smaller units.
Yep, you just run the wires in the refrigerant tube. That's currently what you want.
Okay, yeah, I've seen those before. They're like,
Yep, exactly. The fan, blow the air around wherever you want.
it's like the name of
And it's more.
I wonder what it would cost if you just buy this.
Everybody put storage. It is number 1. I should do for that. then you know whatever it is you can share. I think. Right. Last time I was.
All right. Keeping us moving here since we don't have a ton of time left. I'm going to take a picture.
I know you got Very. Oh, perfect. Well, I knew I was going to jump. He just called.
I wanted to do
Yeah. I gotta. It's with Marv now, isn't it? Yeah, Marv.
All right, so storage is clearly the winner.
They're always gonna go run that thing.
What's next?
Well, they both work for it.
Yeah, let's score.
Yes, you do,
Yes,
do the yellow,
red, 3 points, yellow, 3 points, blue, 1 point.
Yeah.
You got a score over there? When I knew that light bulbs were going to go, starting to like a 60-watt bulb, or 70 Oh wait, I did that wrong. Sorry.
No, there's only worth 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 7, 8, 9. 1.
Nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll only count 32. Okay. Dr. T pumps maybe? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Use an LED or something.
No, 7. Tie. And then we have Walls and Attic with 4 points. And, oh, that's combined harm. And then this emerging technology combo has 1 point. All right, everybody. Thanks for participating in our fun activity. Hope you found it as fun as I did. Apologize for my horrible penmanship, but these are the results. So glad to see that we have our priorities straight in terms of the fact that we're already working on storage. So I think put a check next to that and keep moving on that one for sure. It looks like lighting and microgrids came in at pretty close second and third, followed by benchmarking, which I'm excited to see. So that's promising. And then ductless heat pumps and combined heat and power came in next. So for folks on the phone, and then walls and attics and combined heat pump, water heating and space heating technologies came in last. So I'll read out the scores for the folks on the line. Storage, we added up the points. We gave the red Post-its 3 points, the yellow Post-its 2 points, and the blue Post-its 1 point each. And then we added them up. So storage scored 29 points, lighting 20, microgrids 19, benchmarking 13, ductless heat pumps 7, and combined heat and power also 7 points. So those tied. Walls and attics 4 points, and combo heat pump technology 1 point. So this is great. This is a fantastic start to our list. This will, again, we'll send it out in the Google Docs and continue to get feedback from the rest of the membership and prioritize. The next segment that I just want to spend a couple of moments on brainstorming before we wrap this up is about the experts and or brain power resources that we want to bring to this conversation. So maybe if we could just start with like the numbers 2, 3, and 4 on the list: lighting, microgrids, and benchmarking. Because I feel like storage, we have a good number of experts already in the room. We're moving pretty good on that topic. So if we think about lighting, do any experts come to mind that can help shed some light on opportunities for us to provide solutions?
I work with this guy named Dr. Bob Adams. And I don't know if any of you heard of what is called dark sky.
Yeah.
You understand dark sky. And the big island, the ordinance requires all lighting to be dark sky. And the reason why is the telescope. He developed the lighting, you might understand it. You know those street lights that yeah, they detrimentally affect you when you want to clear those lights on the street. They damage both animals and animals because of their blue light, intensity of blue light. So he developed a light that doesn't have a starter for street light. And shoots, right? Because when the light goes out, I don't know how you work here, but in the light, often the utility company is responsible for the light. Electricity is taken by the municipalities. I can get him involved in it, and I have put it on there as my top priority because I could. I mean, he's told me simple stuff like, you know, the shipyard. I think all the lights are not social food. You know, that in itself could be a meaningful factor. So I can bring him in if there is of interest, and he is super knowledgeable on stuff.
We will add him to our list of potentials, and then let's connect offline on that. Anyone else? I've definitely got some lighting experts that I know, particularly in the codes and standards, you know, specifications section of the lighting industry. So let me dig a little bit in on that. I think that's a pretty easy one for me to bring resources to the table on. Actually, it's probably the easiest one in the list. Okay, microgrids. I think we talked a little bit during the context section here about some of the efforts that are happening. So we've got Borrego. Sounds like you've got a contact. Israel, and then we've got friends in Berkeley who can come and speak to us a little bit about, I think, particularly some of the building department related roles around the microgrid planning and approval. Anyone else have any other thoughts on that one?
I just want to echo what Jim had said. At SunPower, I'm sure I could have a subject matter expert or two that might be working in the area or adjacent to the area that definitely want to be aware of the general effort.
Okay, perfect. So I think next step, when we post this out on the Google Docs, what we'll do is create a table or some way for folks to input their contact information. So whoever you identify as the right person, you know, put it in the Google Doc. We'll take note of it, and then we'll start to acknowledge. Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Do you have any connections to any of the Army bases? Camp Pendleton has its own microphone.
Camp Pendleton?
Yes. Alcatraz has its own microphone. They sit on an island.
Yeah,
they have their own little the island. They can't get in from anywhere else. They got their own microgrid. There are those microgrids out there.
So our
for years and years.
CNC's executive director played a role. He's a former rear admiral and played a role in the development of microgrids. So that's the only way we can tell.
Yeah, see, San Diego, UC San Diego, UCSC has I mean, we have codes and standards people that go out and evaluate microgrids for safety and all, but not for you guys to look at from code compliance and all that. We're looking for product compliance.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of modules and engines and inverters and heat generation sources and all those evaluations from product perspective. I can bring any one of those if you need any particular aspect.
Okay, good to hear. Johnny has the product hookups.
John does too. I want to make sure. Right, Tony? I want Tony to be left out of it.
No, I just didn't want to talk for John, but I'll come forward here.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks for
Yeah, John likes to volunteer people, so.
volunteer right now.
Perfect.
No, all these products experts between UL and ETF, we cover all of it.
Great. That was another outcome of today's meeting that I was hoping to come up with something for John to do. So that's perfect.
I think we got more out of this than I thought.
Good.
It's very good.
That's great. Awesome. The benchmarking was the only other one I wanted to kind of brainstorm around resources, but I think I'm open to hear if anyone has any names they want to toss out. I definitely can dig a little. I think we'll probably end up starting with the City of LA and some of the other jurisdictions around either the state or the country that have these jurisdictions, have these ordinances in place and how they are pursuing compliance. Anything on the line before we wrap up this exercise?
Yeah, hey Lindsay, this is Don. I was listening to a few things that I've kind of captured here, and you guys voluntold John Tacker some stuff, and I don't know who it was had said I challenged SEAC to do some consumer-facing stuff. And I think that there's an opportunity here while we're looking at what we're going to do in the future to say, what are we going to do as far as our scope in the future? We're not really changing that. And I see an opportunity for outreach and engagement opportunities to say, Steve Jones could be the official representative to IAEI, and John Tacker could be the official representative to ICC, and Jeff Spees could be the official. So we start bringing in these organizations, so when we have things to disseminate, we know who does what where.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Don. Yes.
Yeah, this is Pete. Hey, one thing, and it's been sometimes a little bit difficult to hear, so I don't know if this is the right place to throw this out there, but I agree with those top 3 items, those bullet points for things to address in the future in the coming year. I think one overarching component of all of those is something we've talked about before in this group, and that's the fact that the state of California does not use the most recent electrical code. We're always at least 3 years behind the times, and that's especially significant in regards to all 3 of those bullet points, whether you're talking microgrids, lighting, and energy storage, because the most recent code takes note of and is built around the most recent developments in those industries. So anything we can do in this group to encourage and change the process so that California can be adopting the most recent technical code in the electrical code would be a benefit to all these items.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
This is Pete Jackson.
Awesome. Thank you, Pete. That really resonates with me. I think there's a huge energy efficiency component in there as well. So I would like to connect with you offline on that and figure out how we can incorporate that into this sort of prioritization process going forward. Thank you. Okay, that's it for me. Thanks, guys. I think I have what I need, and look for a follow-up from us in the meeting minutes and some links to Google Docs, and we'll go from there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
That brings us to item number 9, Google Docs refresh course. Jack?
Yeah, by popular demand at the February meeting, the Google Documents refresher course was requested. And in an attempt to be a little cheeky with it, I actually did it in Google Slides, which is one of their one of the software items in there.
Pretty slow here.
Yeah.
It's like this little pause and you stand in front of a group, you're about to present your presentation and your computer goes down. And I stand in front of those people and I say, I'm sorry, but I just don't have enough jokes to keep you guys going. But there we go.
All right. So this is sort of a Google Docs refresh course, but you can't really speak about Google Docs without going into Google Drive. And really the easiest analogy I can come up with is it's their version of Microsoft Suite. But instead of you storing everything on your computer or in folders within your documents, you have your Google Drive. And that's where people can share documents with you. You can share documents with other people. You can share them with nobody. And they have different offerings within there. Google Docs, which is very similar to Microsoft Word, which is the bulk of what we utilize here in SEAC. Google Sheets, which is a very, very similar product to Microsoft Excel. There's hardly any variance between the two, actually. And then Google Slides, which is their version of PowerPoint. They also have Google Forms, if you're looking to create a form for a website or a myriad of other purposes, amongst a few other things. So the benefits of Google Drive, you can collaborate across multiple organizations easily. And that's really the crux of why we use it for SEAC, is because you can have multiple people editing the same document at the same time. You can set permissions for each user, so you can set it so people can just view the document. That would allow them to click the links within it, copy and paste from it. It's essentially a PDF document. It's set to view only. They can comment, leaving comments or suggestions. That includes actually making edits to the text. So you can edit the text, but you can't publish that as a file. That's reserved for an editor, which is the third type of permission type. So if your permissions are set to edit, you can edit the document and it appears live. As a commenter, you edit the document and it comes up in like a different type of color, and it'll cross out the other text because it's recognizing you as a commenter. Like I said, it allows real-time edits for multiple users. It only requires a Gmail account and it's free. And it also has editing capabilities from any computer. You can access your Google accounts, and they also have smartphone apps for each of their different products. Personally, I use Google Sheets quite often on my own phone, just because I can update things on the fly and have a running list for myself.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah.
Are we using edit or comment on our Google Doc stuff? And is it the admin that gets to set those settings, or do we get to choose it?
That's admin, but you can always scale down. So if you're set as an editor, you can choose to just view it as a view-only document, or you can choose to edit as a commenting, suggesting contributor.
But are most of the members set to suggest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we prefer, is suggestions rather than edits, because then it's the group process.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, then whoever is the administrator of the document can see the edits, and they can select ones to approve or disapprove.
Got it. Thank you.
So I attempted to sort of show an easy way to access Google Drive if you're unfamiliar. So the way I do it is I log into my Gmail account. At the top right corner, you'll see these 9 little boxes. That's their Google Apps button. They don't name it that, but that's what it is. And within that, you'll see the Google Drive application. By clicking that, it opens up this sort of screen. I sort of cropped mine to merge it together, but it's usually much wider than this. And it opens up automatically to My Drive, which is the top selection you can see here. But for SEAC, all the documents are going to be shared with you. So the easiest way is just go to that Shared With Me. And for SEAC, you can see many of the document folders show up on top for me. We have the different folders, and if there's a folder shared with you, you can just access that folder. And within that, the documents that you have access to or are shared to you are going to be within that folder. Otherwise, the documents that you are last modified will show up below those folders. You can sort it however you'd like, but that's how the standard setting is for your Google Drive, with the folders on top and then the individual files below that. Okay, so then this is within Google Docs. It's very similar to Microsoft Word. This portion doesn't really need too much explaining or anything. Editing and styles are in the same top toolbar, just like in Microsoft Word. You can use different versions and copies. This is really, most of the time, this is going to be reserved for the administrator or the editor of the Google document. One of the things you'll notice in File is that there's no save or save as. Documents automatically save in Google Docs. If you want to save as, the easiest way is to make a copy. By making a copy, you can save it to your own Google Drive, and then you can have a copy that you can tweak or play around with how you'd like. And then also the revision history is available. If you're preparing to share this document with a larger group, the easiest and most effective way is to download as and save it as a PDF. You can also export it as a Word document if perhaps you'd like to share it internally and have people comment and track changes. That would work effectively. But the main purpose you're going to want to utilize here is in the download as function is saving as a PDF for wider distribution. Choose that. And then publish to the web isn't entirely relevant for our purposes. Okay, so adding features, I'm sort of just going through the tabs that run across the top of each Google document, File, and then Insert is the next one. That's where you can insert images, links. Links actually pop up in 3 different ways. If you highlight text and then push Insert and then Link, you can link that text to a URL. It's also in that top toolbar, in that style guide, with that link icon. Or you can also highlight the text, right-click, and then there's a hyperlink option within that. Also within Insert is inserting a drawing, creating a table, very much like Microsoft Word. And then this goes back to what Chris was asking about with the permissions. And it kind of creates like a nice little chart of who can do what. So that a contributor that can edit, can share or unshare, edit content directly, suggest edits, and add comments. When they first go into that document, they're going to have all of these selected, starting with edit content directly. But they can always move their permissions down to suggesting edits or adding comments. And then they go down in a linear fashion. Commenters can suggest edits and add comments, and then contributors that are view only can just view the documents. If you're an administrator on a document, the sharing settings are available here. It's at the top right of that document. It opens a window with each contributor within that window, and then each of them next to it has a drop-down list, and you can change their permissions from editor to suggester to viewer, or vice versa. And then within your own editing rights to change, say you have editing rights and you notice that you're making direct changes to a document, but you only want to add a suggestion. This tab right here, it'll be highlighted as whatever your top level of full clearance, I guess, for that document is. And then you can drop down and change your settings to suggesting or editing. Google has a number of nice little cheat sheets, and I put a couple of these for those in the line in the handout section of the webinar. And I'll be able to share this presentation. I'll put it up in the Google Docs for everybody, or the Google Drive. Yeah, they have really good little cheat sheets that, for the Google Docs, for example, I essentially copy and pasted a lot of that information because it was just a very good flow of what to expect when you're going through Google Docs. And then they have good ones for sheets and slides as well. So, with that, is there any questions? Anything I can elaborate on? What's available? People have questions on Google Docs or information needed.
It's a good overview, thanks.
Yeah.
Really useful.
Thank you, Jack. Any questions from those online? Thank you again, Jack. Appreciate that update. Item number 10, next steps, action items. Put your phone number down right away. I was just writing. Oh, sorry. I can put that back up.
So I took note of several action items today. Looking back through my notes from the agenda, in item 3, announcements, when I announced the funding situation with LA County, my follow-up item here is to find out opportunities that might exist for SEAC members to reach out to LA County to put in a good word for this organization to remain funded. So I will definitely follow up with you there. Any other, also identifying any meeting dates for meetings that you might be able to attend and or provide comments or otherwise. Let's see. We are going to, moving forward, put a draft watermark and blurb into all of our draft documents, mentioning that there's an opportunity for comments and that they won't be finalized until there's a vote. Simultaneously, we're going to begin working on style guides for those documents so that we can all align around consistent formatting, branding. We'll present that to you all for feedback as a straw man. We did go ahead and approve the NEC TIA white paper. So we'll be posting that to the website. We went ahead and approved the rapid shutdown paper, so we'll be adding the logo and posting that to the website. The AC disconnect requirements document that Brandon shared with us today, Jack will be posting that to the Drive. And we will be sharing the results of our priority setting exercise with everyone via the Drive as well.
Those are all the ones I have.
I do have one announcement, if I can do that. One of the items from not last month, but the month before the last institute meeting was an update to our operating guidelines. So we had, prior to that meeting, we had worked on a draft and got it really, really close. There were still a few remaining items that needed to be clarified. So I actually went into the document last night and accepted all of the changes that had been made a few additional edits in suggestion mode so that those are tracked so that folks can see that next round of edits. And I think we'll be sharing that with you all as well for a last look, and ideally an adoption either via email, vote, or at our next meeting.
Another thing from last month, there was some discussion about the 690.47D auxiliary grounding electrode, and I thought that maybe the action item was that there was going to be a task group formed.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
It is on the notes for the NEC task group. We've not done any work on that yet. So if you're not in that task group and you want to participate,
Is that the PVIF?
You know, I think the initial conversation was around more of a. So the answer is no. It was more of just helping with the clarification of the 2014 NEC. But you know, after today,
through the SEAC organization.
Yeah, but after today and the discussion around interpretation versus not, and the way what I'm seeing in the field in terms of how it's being interpreted, I think the task group should probably discuss whether or not it's an appropriate place for it to live. It certainly is an issue in the field, as I know you know, probably. But does it play a part in, you know, one of the documents that SEAC, you know, should be putting out?
I think it does, and I think they should expedite it. Berkeley's going to kill somebody.
Okay.
I saw a plan that Berkeley inspector had made them drive 3 separate grounding electrodes, tie them to the roof system, and not bond them to anything. We're talking about potentially energizing electrodes with no bonds to the system to shut anything off. So they're going to have, they could potentially energize these electrodes, and they could sit there energized. They're really making a mistake in Berkeley right now.
That's concerning, for sure. I'd heard different from Berkeley, but maybe they've changed their.
I called them and begged them to make. I called them and begged them to make them bond them together. I said, listen, if you guys you're making a mistake by making them drive these electrodes in the first place, but if you guys are going to do this, you please make them bond them to the electrical system. You're gonna kill somebody. You're creating violations of 690, of 250, 58, 250, 60. I mean, they're creating violations that aren't there, and they're putting in auxiliary electrodes that are not bonded. This is a huge problem in that jurisdiction. And the guy told me, yeah, we've heard that several times, but we think our inspector's right, and we're not gonna go against what he says. Literally, I saw the plan that made him put in 3 ground rods.
Don, you bring up a good point, and I think what we're seeing out there is there's a lot of inconsistency on how the requirement is being applied. You know, what's the right way, what's the wrong way, but everyone's got their own opinion, and that's the problem, is that there's a dozen different ways of trying to meet this code. And,
right.
And have a dozen different solutions. And
yeah, we just got to go back to plain English, though. I mean, the first thing it says in 690.47 is to install a grounding electrode system in accordance with 250.50 through 250.54. The first statement of 250.50 basically says if there's existing grounding electrodes for that structure, you don't need to do anything. And if there isn't, then you install one of the following electrodes. I mean, it's really just reading the code in plain English. It's kind of ridiculous that they're interpreting this way to make them drive ground with, and 3 of them at the 3 lowest points of the array, because it's just a horrible interpretation, and I really think it needs to be defined, not interpreted. Just do what SEAC always does, and that's provide guidance on already proven best practices and industry standards. We're not here to provide interpretations. We're here to say this is what other people have decided it should be done. But I mean, Bill Brooks has talked to these guys. Everybody has actually physically called them, and they said, no, we don't care. They said, I don't care what Bill Brooks says, he doesn't work here. I don't care what John Wiles says, he doesn't work here. They literally are ridiculously biting off their nose to spite their face because they want to stand behind this inspector. Somebody needs to get a hold of the building official and say they're going to kill somebody up there, especially with that balcony fiasco. They don't want this image.
Yeah, other jurisdictions as well, same problem.
Yeah, again, this is on the SEC task. list, and it's probably something that we discuss as a task group to move up and talk about. Again, not providing
here's what the guys.
I agree
Here's
with
what they
Paul.
said to me. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was the one that initially brought it up. I was just having some hesitations based on conversations here today. So, yeah, let's move it to the top of that list. I certainly can help put some language on paper and get something out.
I mean, yeah, here's what they said about that. They said that if this came from Calbo or from ICC saying this is how it should be, or even from NFPA, they would accept it. But they particularly said if this came from Calbo, that's why we need a Calbo rep, that SEAC says this is, here's the paper on it, and then our Calbo person can call them up instead of this having to come from CalSEA Codes and Standards Group, which appears to be coming from the solar industry. If it came from Calbo or ICC and somebody like, somebody way up in Calbo were to call and say, hey, listen, this is technically the way that it's kind of being enforced throughout, and it's perfectly accepted. We just need the connections to these larger organizations and a representative that does that sort of outreach, I think. I don't want to see them hurt anybody up there, aside from the fact that we're not here to tell them interpretations, but Calbo could do that. Our Calbo rep could call him.
The next NEC meeting, I think, is next week, Thursday. Yeah.
So that actually brings up another action item for us, is to make sure that everyone is getting the task group invites. I've been hearing from a couple of folks that you're not getting invites to task groups, or at least not hearing announcements of when the task groups are meeting, so that you could say, hey, I want to join, give me the invite.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful to have. And like, who are the people on the list? Who's the
So can we walk folks through the website real quick, Jack? Yeah. So Jack added a calendar to the events page, which does give some of the information you're asking for, Mark.
Yeah, let's see. Can we see if that shows up?
So on the events page of our website, we do have a calendar now that lists all of our meetings, both the main meetings and the task groups. And if you click on one of the task groups, it provides the date, the description, who owns it, and then it states there, if you're interested in participating, contact Jack and he'll give you the login.
Oh, that's great. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I think you need to send a note out to everyone about that. That's a big improvement.
Yeah. Are those links live and exposed to the public? Those Google Doc links?
I believe so, but they would be as a view only. I can remove them.
I don't know. Is that something we want to have available while we're working on those docs?
Oh, the docs probably not.
Yeah.
Is it that it's just that all these invites and stuff are just going out to the actual SEAC members? Because there's a lot of us that aren't members that participate in the discussions, but several of us, including myself, are not SEAC members. I'm not listed on there.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think part of the problem is that a couple of these task groups were already up and running when we started, and it's been difficult for us to get a list of who's actually participating and make sure that we are spreading the word adequately. So something we're going to fix.
It might be again, we send out an email stating, hey, look at the events. All members are allowed to participate on these task groups, and allow them to do that. And that way people won't say to us, hey, I wasn't invited. The invitation has been out there. You look when the next meeting is. The more the merrier.
And not just members, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. I said just members, but those that would like to participate.
Would it make sense to drop a calendar in the Google universe with the link to the meeting as well, so that it's not just an email that we have to go find? And you can share the calendar with everybody in SEAC, right?
I'm sorry.
So this we don't want links to these meetings. This is publicly facing. Put this calendar on Google Drive, share it with everybody, members and non-members of SEAC, so that we have a resource to go to. Because as we were saying earlier, these events by design aren't recurring, so you do have to go constantly look for them, or look for the invite, make sure you accept it, all that other stuff.
Okay, the two follow-up items. We're gonna send an email highlighting the fact that this calendar now exists. We're going to take off the links and just, make sure everyone's aware that anyone can join these and contact either Jack or the task group lead for an invite. And then we're also going to replicate this calendar to some degree, or in some fashion, on Google Docs and give everyone access to it.
Hey, Lindsay, have you or Jack thought about coming up with a standard invitation format that the members can, and whoever's involved, like I was going to send something to Chris Oliveira from CEC because I was talking to his boss Dave at the last event, and he was very open to sending, I think Chris or somebody from CEC. So if we had somebody from CEC on this group, they could go to LA County. That would be huge for us to say, hey, CEC's involved with this. And then LA County, it would be a no-brainer.
Yeah, we have a pretty standardized format for the invite, so that's something we can definitely forward to. And those folks are actually part of the list that I'm generating in my head for the experts we want to reach out to. So John, I'll reach out to you as well to see who we get some additional names, and we can definitely forward them.
Yeah, I'll send it to Chris. I'll send it to Chris over at CEC. I think he would be willing to join. I talked to him and he said he would.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that leads us to item number 11, open forum. Good of the order type of thing. Anybody have anything they'd like to discuss that we haven't discussed or bring the group up to speed on? Now's your time to speak.
I was just wondering to see if any of the AHJs are having, difficulty, approving or inspecting battery systems as they start to build. We're starting to get some volume now in terms of installations. And I just wondering if you could share some feedback so far.
That's a good question to all the AHJs. We fortunately were very lucky to have Solar City come in and train our inspectors on energy storage systems and the Tesla battery. Yesterday was the first one I approved in the city of Oceanside, and so we're going forward with it, and I'll let you know what comes up out of it.
Okay.
Anyone on the phone? Good of the order.
I can't find the link to the online store where I can buy my SEAC T-shirt and hat.
Under development.
Yeah, coming soon. Swag.
We
need some swag, yeah.
In Hawaii, one of the reasons why I'm here, the program for net energy metering has pretty much closed down. But they have what is called the customer grid supply, customer self-supply. So basically, you're grid connected, but you do not export. Okay. On Oahu, it was really slow to get those approvals. We have about 370 approval applications to the utility company. Out of those, only 28 of them have been executed. And part of the reason why, I'll talk to him about it. I know one of the reasons why. And I'll say, I think there was a little bit of confusion because a lot of the applicants were the Tesla products. Yeah. But I think the other part was permits. I've worked for customers. They were in for 14 months not getting a permit. But I think a lot of it is just not explaining. So 2 weeks later, I was able to get the permit. Okay. But that's one of the reasons why I'm here, because his question is, and I think you know the answer, the AHJs in Hawaii don't understand batteries. They do not. So I'm here to grab from you what you guys know. And I was asked at the beginning of last year to put the program together to educate the AHJs. There's about 3 bills going on. And that's why I'm here. Because they've budget for $150,000 to $200,000 a year to take the AHJs and train them throughout all the counties so that they can understand how these things are viable.
Yeah, that's why I think some of these task groups paperwork that we're talking about getting done, the plan check one and other ones will help everybody, what do I need to submit to get approved? What does a plan checker need to look at to approve a set of plans? These are great documents to have out there.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know a little bit about the Hawaii situation, and what we're doing here at SEAC is really good work. But what's being asked for in the office, DPP, is something completely different. Not only do they care about code, they also want to know all about the behavior of the system and how it works with the tenant interactivity. When does it charge? When does it discharge? And narratives on how it works and so forth. It's a much
part of the
more
problem
involved process.
Part of the problem is I don't think the vendor should explain the product versus the concept. Because when you explain the product, it kind of looks like, it's the product. You have to explain the concept of what
the bigger picture.
Yeah, the bigger picture of how it works. Because I've gone in with different customers asked by the HCs, can you sit in to visit? And if I can give some value back, that's where the problem is. You try to sell the product. Don't sell the product. Sell the idea. I'll give you an example. I have a customer. I'm working with them right now. First draw of comments, 42 comments. Have you ever given 42 comments to an application?
Commercial project.
Yeah, this is a residential project now.
We'll never run a residential. Like Pete said at our last meeting, or I think he mentioned it in the training he's doing for STEP and IRAC, is how many of his corrections are really electrical based,
right?
And how many are structural based or other. And really, I agree with him. There's a very small component of corrections that really have to do with electrical sizing of the conductors. And most of that stuff's right.
And mostly code compliancy, right? The second round, after responding to the first 42 set of questions, 46 comments.
That's a little much,
It's even hard to find that amount of comments on electrical for commercial install, let alone a residential. So this is why I'm here, because I work with these clients to find ways to educate them.
I don't think I had that many comments on the Stanford football stadium.
Yeah. I would share, but I don't want to share all the comments. It is unusual, So this group is refreshing. I thank you.
We're glad you participate. We hope that we can provide you with information that can help you guys up in the line. Let us know. We want to help you.
Anytime you can come over. You're all invited. Yeah.
We're going to change our meeting.
Wasn't he hosting the next meeting?
Well, it's San Diego, so that's as close as we get.
Okay. Again, I want to thank everybody today. I think today we didn't get a whole lot of people here. We didn't get a lot of people online. But those people that did participate, I think we got a lot accomplished. And it's really good to be for this organization. I'm happy. I'm pleased. I like the way we're going. So thank you, everybody. I'll entertain a motion to go ahead.
I just want to say a special thanks to Lindsay and Jack. They did a great job today, and I just want to give them a special thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
See you later.
Thank you, guys.
Nice talking to you guys again. Long time no see. I hope I get out there for one of these meetings.
Yeah, Don, thank you for your participation.
You got it. See you on the flip side.
Good one, folks.